Are you still emailing attachments back and forth and wondering which version is the right one? There's a much easier way to collaborate without all of that confusion. If you've been following the series, you've seen how Microsoft OneDrive stores your files. Now let's look at how to share and collaborate using OneDrive. This is where you can really start saving time. Now that you've seen an overview of OneDrive, let's dive deeper into your options for collaborating and sharing files. Remember, OneDrive is where your personal files live. These are files that are private unless you choose to share them. You can also share files from your Microsoft 365 applications like Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and more. Microsoft Teams is your collaboration space where conversations, meetings, and files all come together. And through Teams, we also can access OneDrive. And behind the scenes, for most organizations, department and team files are stored in SharePoint, which is your shared workspace. So the simple way to think about it, OneDrive is for your files, and Teams and SharePoint are for team collaboration. Let's explore more about how to share files and folders with OneDrive. Here I'll move to that chocolate creations folder I created in the previous video. And here is that document, Benefits of Chocolate. This was created directly in the Word for the Web application. So I'll select this. And what I'd like to do is to share this. Now I have a couple different ways to do that. I could pick the toolbar here to share, or this icon here to share as well. It's also found in my options menu. So here would be another way. More than enough options. It's already been shared with Adele, and I'd also like Patty and Nestor to have access to it. Keep in mind, I'm still the owner of this file. Many organizations will limit who you can share information with, and so it's often only internal. And so external guest or outside email addresses may not be allowed. As we saw earlier, we can use this pencil icon here to change what they are allowed to do. In this case, I'll let them edit, but you can see that we might limit it just simply to only viewing. In this case, the access is going to be the same for both of them, but I can always come back later and manage access to limit certain people to only view or others might be able to edit. Additionally, I could copy the link here, and this is another way for me to take that link and maybe copy it into an email or into Teams communication. If you'd like to have more control over the sharing, here we have this gear for settings. So this has to do with that link setting. Now, this you could share with anyone. It might be limited. Your organization may not even let you see this anyone option. It might be only people in the organization, for instance. So know that what is displayed for you could be a little different. Once again, we have the options for what they can do. And it's helpful to know that you can even set an expiration. Maybe you're only giving them access for a week. So it's a lot easier then. You don't have to come back and remove access later. And additionally, we could set a password to that. So we'll leave that open, but know that this would be a possibility for you. And any changes that you make, for instance, then we would apply that. And I'll send this on its way. As before, they'll receive an email so that they can access that file. Here I'll collapse my navigation to make this a little bit more straightforward. Here I have my activity, who I've shared it with, and I could also move into the details so we can see that in addition to Adele, Nestor and Patty also have access to this file. They'll have access until I change that because I'm the owner of this. So it's always helpful to keep in mind that when you share a file, you're not sharing access to anything else in your OneDrive. Another question that comes up for me sometimes is, can someone share a file that you've shared? And yes, you can actually see who has access from Manage Access, which is one of your options. Because you're the owner, you retain access, and you can always change access, which we'll get into as we continue. So if you remove access, it's no longer available for viewing or editing by anyone, even if someone else has shared it. So it doesn't mean that the ownership changes, even if someone opens up access to someone else in the organization. Let's come back to My Files. And as I mentioned, we could share a folder as well. So here's my purchasing folder. And I'll simply choose my share icon here. And I'm sharing this entire folder with Patty. That means that everything in that folder has been shared with Patty. And we'll come in here and we can see that all of these documents have been shared. Let's go to our shared view here. And to open this up a little bit, I'll collapse the navigation for right now. This is divided into two different sections, with you and by you. With you means these are files that have been shared with me. They're owned by other people and they've been shared with me. I can filter these by the type of files, and I can also filter these by the person. So these are files that Alex has shared with me. And we can also see the activity as well over on the right-hand side. Let's go back to my files for a moment. As I mentioned before, most of these files are private and a few are shared. So one of those, for instance, is this annual financial report. If I want to change access or change details here, I can hover over it, go to my three dots or right-click, and here is my Manage Access. So this will tell me exactly who I've shared it with. In this case, most people only can view it, and a few people have the ability to edit it. So now I can be really clear about what this means. Let's say that I'd like to change it so Patty also has access. I can select her name here and actually modify this and say that she can edit this. And now I can apply this. So now we can see that change. I also have the option while I'm here to completely remove someone. So let's say Deborah's no longer part of this project. I can select Deborah here. And in this case, then I'm going to say no direct access, which completely removes her from access to this document. So here I will apply and confirm that I want to remove her from this. Let's go back to our shared files. So here I have with you. If I want to open this file, I could right click on this, open, and choose, do I want to see it in the browser or open in Excel? And in this case, I have editing privileges for it, and I could make changes to this document. Back in OneDrive, under Shared, we'll go to By You, and we saw this briefly here. Here's this annual financial report that I've shared with multiple people, and I could change access. I could open it up. I have multiple options in terms of working with it. And as we saw, we got into Manage Access. So it's just a good policy for you to periodically audit exactly who you want to be able to share files with. And notice as well, we have this option here where we can stop sharing. So we'll do a little bit more of this when we continue. Let's look at how to share your work from Microsoft 365 applications, including Excel and Word. From Excel, I'm working with the Financial Statements Workbook. I've already shared this with Adele, but I'd like to add two other colleagues. So we saw earlier that we could use the Share button, which is in the upper right-hand corner of the application window. Another way is to choose File and Share, and then Share with People. Now this will take me to exactly the same place. So pick whatever options make the most sense for you. I'd like to share this with Patty and Nestor, create any appropriate messages. Once again, we can determine exactly what level of access they will have to this document. And notice in the bottom left-hand corner, currently Adele and I have access to this file. I'll send it on its way, and they will be notified that this document is now available for them to edit. Adele currently has this file open, and at any time she can make changes to any one of these worksheets. So let's look at that. We can see where she's located, and now she's updated this value. Changes could also include formatting, and she could continue working with this as well as anyone else who has access to it. So we can see where she's currently positioned, and I can see that she has it open. This is often referred to as co-authoring, the ability for us to collaborate on shared documents instead of having multiple versions that could be saved in so many different places. Before I switch to Word, let's take a moment and look at our files from the Excel desktop app. So I'll pick File to go to our Backstage view. And from this, we can see files that are recommended for me, typically things that I've recently edited, recently opened files, certainly any files that I favorited, but here's something also to look for, files that are shared with me. So these are Excel files that have been shared with me that I could access directly from my desktop application. So once again, choosing the access option that makes the most sense for you. Sharing from other applications like Word and PowerPoint works exactly the same way. For this document, I'll choose Share and then Share. And here I'm sharing this document with Lydia and Adele. What if I only want them to have access to this file for the next week? As we saw earlier, here I can pick Settings, my gear. Now I can set the expiration date to next Monday and then Apply. So that's something to add to your options when you are sharing documents for co-authoring or collaboration. Here I'll send it on its way. And once again, keep in mind that when you share a file, I only get access to that file from your OneDrive, not everything else on your OneDrive. Just as we have multiple ways to share documents, we also have a variety of ways to manage shared files. So here I have that file, Financial Statements. Notice as I hover over it, I can see conversations related to this, that is, activity related to this file. I could right-click and choose Manage Access. I can also use the three dots or more options to get to the same place. From here, I can review who has access to this file. And any of these files can be opened either from the desktop app or the web-based app. So here I'll go to More Actions, and you can see here, Open in Browser or Open in App. The flexibility of having access to both the desktop and web-based applications, that we can use the version that best fits our current work and device. Typically, as the desktop apps have more features, this is where you will likely do most of your creation and editing. So here I go to File, and we can see here's Benefits of Chocolate, and it showing up because I recently worked with it. And so it's in the recommended for you as well as my list of recently opened files. I can open this up and continue working with it. For this shared file, I want to change access from editing to read only. So directly from the file, I'll move to Share, Manage Access, and from here, I'm going to change access so that they can only view it. And I'll do that for each of the people that currently have access. There's nothing dramatic about it. It's simply that the next time they open up the file, they will only be able to view it. For this file, I'll choose Share and Manage Access, but I've decided to stop sharing the file altogether. Keep in mind, I am the owner of the file, so I can control who has access to it. Here I'll stop sharing. And now Megan is the only one that has access to that file. At any point, I can start sharing it if I wish. One of the concerns I hear about sharing files is keeping track of changes. Fortunately, these are easy to review. Back in the Excel desktop app and in the financial statements file. So as Megan, I'm going to move to one of these other worksheets here and make a modification. And I could continue working with this. Regardless of who has edited the file, we can see the changes here under the Review tab and show changes. I notice I can filter the changes by a particular sheet. In this case, I'm looking at the entire workbook. So here's that very recent change that Megan made, as well as other changes made by Adele. Formatting changes won't show here, but this can help us feel a little bit more comfortable letting other people access this file. And if we see multiple changes we're not happy with, then we have another option, Version History, which I'll show you here as we continue. In Microsoft Word, we would typically turn on Track Changes then before we will share a file. One of the things that happens when your files are in OneDrive is AutoSave is automatically enabled. And you'll see this in your quick access toolbar, whether it's above or below the ribbon. This continues to save the file while you're working on it. Now you can actively choose to save the file whenever you've made changes, but this is the nature of having a file stored in OneDrive, is that they will automatically be saved through AutoSave. The advantage of this is that AutoSave helps make sure that your files are frequently backed up, and it automatically tracks version history. Although you can turn off autosave, version history is no longer available. So there might be times when you want to temporarily turn off the autosave because you're simply testing out a formula or another change that you want to easily be able to undo. But when you want to go back to a previous version of file, that's the magic of version history. Maybe someone made errors in the most recent updates, or even you personally forgot to save a file with a different name before you started making changes. This has happened to me before, and it's one slight downside of the autosave feature. But the real advantage of autosave and OneDrive is it serves as an ongoing backup of your files. Now, this is especially helpful when multiple people may be editing a file, but version history is available whether or not a file is shared. So for my examples, the steps will apply to the desktop apps because version history is a little different in the web apps, but it's also available. So from Excel, one of the things that I can do is come up to the title bar here to the name. And if we click on the name, we can confirm and see the location, but here is version history. Now, when I select this, what will happen is a new window is opened up. So this is the most recently saved version that we have of this file. And we can see the various versions throughout the day and in previous edits. There's a couple different options here. First of all, I could take this file and save it under a new name, simply if I want to compare or to review it. Or if I want to move back to one of my recently used files, I have the option to restore. And what this would do is it would replace or become the most recent version of this document. So that's something just to consider. Do you want to replace it, or do you want to use this as a way to create a backup copy? But this makes it really easy for us to kind of review and look to see if there's any concerns, and you can review the edits and navigate through those. This file was not heavily modified, but it's really easy to use version history if we want to go back. For this, I'll simply close the window and I'm back to the most recent copy of this. Another way to get to version history, which takes me to the same place, is File, Info, and here is version history. And from OneDrive, I can select the file, move to my three dots, once again, whatever makes sense here, and I'm looking for version history near the bottom. This is not as informative as working directly in the application, so I wouldn't recommend this as your primary choice, but know that it's available to you. And I'll wrap up with a couple quick tricks in working with Microsoft Teams. So if you're also using Teams for collaboration, notice at the bottom here in OneDrive, I could quickly access some of my more recently used locations. In this particular case here, this is going to take me to the documents that are related to this project. So the Mark 8 project team. And then I could navigate to the specific channels as well. For instance, the go-to-market plan. These are my files that are in Teams, but I'm accessing them through the OneDrive environment. Now, the ownership works a little differently. So these are not files that I own, but they're files that I have access to because I'm a member of this team. So in Teams, here is that channel in the Mark 8 project team. And in Shared, this used to be called Files, here are those related files. Also notice in Teams that we can access our personal OneDrive from the navigation at the far left. So it's simply choosing the best way to access this information, whatever works for you. The key takeaway here is with OneDrive, you're working from one file, not multiple versions. And you're only sharing access to that specific file or folder, not everything in your OneDrive. That's what makes collaboration simpler and more secure. To watch the other videos in this OneDrive series, check the description below. For more tips, visit thesoftwarepro.com/OneDrive. And if this was helpful, like and subscribe for more time-saving ideas. I'll see you in the next video.